The affiliation between the Academy of Natural Sciences and Drexel University was a great decision in hindsight. But 5 years ago, there was no hindsight. There was only the critical need to find a new path for the Academy and a bold proposal with huge upside, but also considerable risk. No accomplishment of this magnitude happens without strong, committed, and visionary leadership. In short, the kind of leadership Jim Macaleer provided. He saw the natural affinity between a one-of-a-kind science organization and a one-of-a-kind research university. Probably because Jim and Jean have had their fingers on the Academy's pulse for more than 20 years. They love and understand this place better than anyone, and all Philadelphians owe them a debt for helping this great institution thrive. I had the privilege of giving Jim an honorary degree 3 years ago, and now it's my great pleasure to help recognize Jim and Jean with the McClure Award.
The McClure Award was established in 2002 to recognize outstanding leadership, discovery, vision, and philanthropy. The award is named for William McClure, educator, philanthropist, and president of the Academy of Natural Sciences from 1817 to 1840. William McClure is known as the father of American geology. He completed a pioneering geological survey of the entire eastern United States. He was a strong advocate for public access to the Academy, funded many scientific expeditions, and donated his large collection of books to the library. Jim and Jean Macaleer's tremendous leadership, philanthropy, and support of the Academy, especially through some difficult times, make them a perfect fit for this award.
Jim spent an enormous amount of time in at the Academy. I mean, I think there were times when Jean probably thought he was living here. He'd come in at the crack of dawn and he'd be at meeting after meeting. So I really want to thank her as well for her support and her willingness to give up so much of Jim's time and her time with him to help us do the things we did.
Jim, I would say, he could be very decisive, but I never saw Jim lose his cool.
Jim is a very strong person. His personality is sometimes bigger than the entire room. You're never confused about what Jim is thinking, nor what he thinks should be done.
Well, he would wear Hawaiian shirts and things of that nature to board meetings.
Just, put everyone at ease. It was awesome to have that. You didn't have to be that suit-wearing person to be the chairman of the board, and we love that for that. And I today will wear Hawaiian shirts in honor of Jim.
And given, you can see the way that I am dressed, Jim and I will often present an interesting contrast. But that's one of the things that we would kid Jim about, but affectionately. Jim would think that I'm overdressed now, actually.
Jim joined the Academy Board in the 1990s, and we've felt the impact of his presence here ever since.
Jim helped set the tone as to really, putting the vibrancy back into the Academy.
Look, for 2 centuries we've had financial problems and leadership issues, and his presence, and when he came on the board and then as chairman, that really changed.
I think that Jim was a leader of the Academy at a time when the Academy really needed a strong leader, and he provided a calm but firm hand in guiding the liner through the rough waters that we went through.
Obviously, Jim has had success in business, and he brought to the Academy, I think, a very rigorous understanding of the finances, of knowing that the Academy needs to be financially stable and responsible.
Well, Jim always had a way of seeing the big picture. He could put things in perspective in the way that the rest of us who were perhaps too close to the trees were missing the forest, and he had that longer view.
Jim became board chair in 2006, and the next 5 years led to an unparalleled number of successes for this organization, including our combination with Drexel University, which is really a significant milestone for Jim and this institution.
He was really transformative as board chair. Now we're in a totally different place than we were, and I attribute a lot of that to Jim and Jean.
I really think if it weren't for Jim, we wouldn't be here today. Jim had this unstoppable force, just refused to take no for an answer, wouldn't accept anything but the best here, and he really turned the place around.
We've been really lucky to have him as an advocate and a supporter for both the financial health of the Academy and the great science that we do here.
I met Jim in February of 2010, and immediately I was taken by somebody who is an extraordinary entrepreneur, has already proven that through his entire career, but also a great connection with nature. He's an avid birder. He is an avid fly fisherman.
Once he arrived, he realized that this was a perfect fit for him. It had all of these departments doing interesting things in areas that he loved. And so he put so much of himself into it.
And the day that he started, we gave a behind-the-scenes tour for Jim and Jean. It was one of the best tours ever, and it lasted hours. I mean, we literally hit every cabinet and every single tray in the collection, including some of the extinct and endangered things that are here. And they're just blown away. And it was so inspirational to know that somebody who really cares about live birds and bird conservation was going to be on our board of directors.
I was lucky enough to travel with him in Alaska. And we would get to a little island in the Bering Sea, and Jim would be the first on the Zodiac and off, and he'd be finding the most obscure birds, things that the rest of us could barely even see. He would spot instantly, know what it was, and be able to add it to his life list, or more often not add it to his life list because he'd already seen it somewhere before.
Jim and Jean, they care about the people that work here. My son is going to be 8 years old, and he was born with a severe heart problem. So the first several months of his life, he was at Children's Hospital. And almost every day, Jim called to see how Gavin was doing. And I will never, ever forget that. He would call and check in on my wife. You don't have leadership like that, but Jim always reached out to see how we were doing, see how the parents were doing, and check on my son, and that meant so much to me.
I got very close to Jim during 2010 particularly. During that year that Jim and I took on the interim role here at the Academy, Jim as chairman of the board and myself as interim president. Jim's leadership during that search for a president was very important to us, and it came out very well. And I could get back to breaking rocks, which is what I do. I'm a paleontologist.
One of the very first people I met, and just the passion he had for this place was just tremendous, and it made me feel that passion.
One of my most wonderful moments as a fundraiser was when I was told as a brand new employee at the zoo, but I had to call this person and tell him that he was very late on his pledge. So I was reluctant and left it till late on a Friday afternoon to finally pick up the phone and make the call. And in the course of the phone call, he increased that gift by tenfold. I thought it was a pretty magic moment, and he thereafter referred to me as the person who every time I see you, I lose money. As a development person, I thought that was a great way to be referred to.
So without the Macaleer's generous support of the ornithology collection, I wouldn't have my job today. So this is my dream job, being a curator of birds at such an important institution. There aren't a lot of jobs like this, so.
One of the really fun things that we did a photo shoot up along the Schuylkill River, and sort of a birding type photo shoot. I thought it came out really well, and so that photograph will always be something that reminds me of a very important time in my life.
Jim and Jean, I want you to know that not only have you changed the Academy in a most profound way, but you gave me an opportunity to do something in my career that wasn't even a thought 6 years ago. And now I can tell you that I'm so proud to lead an institution with such a storied history and an exciting future, and I wouldn't be here had it not been for you looking me in the eyes and saying, "You're my man, I want you to take this job." And it's for that reason, for me personally, it is such a thrill for me to be able to help to award you with the McClure Award.
Jim and Jean, no one deserves this honor more than you guys. You've been amazing supporters of the Academy, and I just feel really grateful to have had the opportunity to know you and work with you. Thank you.
Jim and Jean, I want to thank you very much for your support over the years. It's been wonderful. You've been a big supporter of us and have really helped the sciences and the Academy overall. Thank you very, very much.
Jim, it's Ken Warren, fellow member of the board, and I wanted to congratulate you and Jean on the McClure Award. You led the Academy through a very turbulent and critical time. You did a stellar job, and that's why we're here today looking forward to new and exciting things. So again, my heartfelt thanks and congratulations on the McClure Award.
Jim, we really miss you here at the Academy. We greatly appreciate the leadership and generosity that you and Jean showed to the Academy. I personally considered it a great honor and privilege to serve with you. I consider you to be a great friend and mentor, and I wish you all the best.
I would just really like to thank you for all that you've done, not only for the Academy of Natural Sciences through your advocacy and your incredibly generous philanthropy, but really for global conservation and improving the quality of life for birds, other animals, and humans that inhabit the earth. You've been great role models, and I really look up to you for that. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to thank you for everything that you've done for the Academy of Natural Sciences, not only for the institution, but also for me as someone who has come up through the ranks at the institution. Watching you through the years and your leadership style really helped me with my leadership, and those little hints that you would give when I was just starting out with my education board committee really helped me become the leader I am today. You're really an example and someone that everyone here at the Academy looks up to. Thank you so much.
Jim, it's hard to thank you and Jean for what you have meant not only to the Academy but to the Philadelphia area. You've been great supporters of so many institutions, and personally it's been so wonderful working with you. You've always been very supportive of me when I was chairman of the Academy, and you've been so supportive of the Academy overall.
So Jim, I'm wearing this shirt in your honor today. I know it's not quite as elegant as some of the ones that you have, but it brings back so many memories of the great times that you and I have spent together over the years, from the shores of Alaska and the Bering Sea to the meeting rooms here at the Academy, where you combined your love of birds and fish and all things natural with your experience in finance and the management of a great organization. Your generosity, your leadership skills, and your personal presence here meant so much to the Academy, to all of us. Now, I've been around the Academy a long time, not quite long enough to have known William McClure personally, but I know what he did for this institution and what you have done. And you and Jean together, your generosity is overwhelming, and our appreciation for it is immense. So congratulations. We love what you've done, and the Academy has gone to a new place of strength and leadership because of you.
Hi, Jim and Jean. Thanks for all that you've done for the Academy over the years, and specifically the great support that you've shown to the ornithology department. And specifically, I want to thank you for all that you've done for me personally through the years. It's been great knowing you. Thanks for everything that you've done.
Your support of the department, without it, I would not be here as a curator of birds, and Nate might not be here as the collections manager, and I think the two of us together make a great team, and we're really enjoying working together and building this department into something great. Without your support, that wouldn't have been possible, so thank you very much for all of that.
Hey Jim, I want you to know that what you did was one of the most courageous and far-sighted acts of leadership that I've ever seen in the not-for-profit sector. And without your strength and your commitment, I don't think the Academy would be where it is today. In fact, I know it wouldn't be. You really saved that place, Jim. You've been so great to us. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Jim and Jean, for your continued support of the Academy.
Thank you, Jim and Jean. You guys rock.
Jim and Jean, thank you so much for everything you do.
Thank you, Jim and Jean, for all your generous support.
Thank you, Jim and Jean. You guys are the best.
Thank you, Jim and Jean, for everything you do for us here at the Academy.
Thank you for your generosity.
Thank you, Jean and Jim, for all your support.
Thanks so much for all that you do.
Thank you, Jean and Jim, for all your support.
Thank you kindly for all your support.
Thank you so much for your support and leadership of the Academy.
We truly could not be where we are today without your leadership and support.
Thank you, Jim and Jean.
Jim, I will never forget our first meeting at the Marathon Grill. You were intent on telling me all about the Academy, why I should become a board member. Your passion was absolutely contagious. I do also remember that you were dressed in your typical Hawaiian shirt, and I thought to myself, good thing I Googled this gentleman before I met him so I had some sense of who he was and what his perspective was. Now, shortly after joining the board, how could I ever forget the urgent email that all of our trustees received from you, announcing a need for an Academy board meeting, but with no agenda. We trustees gingerly walked into the Darwin room, and there you were, dressed in your Hawaiian shirt and sitting there with a sheet of paper in front of you. And as I looked at that sheet of paper, what I saw were numbers that were scribbled in columns, but I couldn't make out any of the numbers. You didn't say hello, you didn't greet us, you just stood up, turned, and started writing those numbers on the blackboard. And you know what? Those numbers told the story completely, because what you were telling us as you turned around was the Academy was not sustainable in any way, given its current financial trajectory. And then you turned back to us and you explained why, in details that none of us could have ever known. Now, fast forward to our CEO search, where you and I, who were running the search, both kept calling for business and entrepreneurial skills, as opposed to those usual and customary candidates that kept being paraded in front of us. Enter George Gephardt to the third floor interview room, and actually we gave him points because he found the room when nobody else could. But he entered carrying a huge playbook, and you and I kicked each other under the table. He probably knew more about the Academy, Jim, than anybody in the room except for you. And then he, too, went ahead and made a pronouncement that was similar to yours. And he was doing it in a risky manner because he was a candidate. When he said, you know, as I look at this information, this Academy is not sustainable in its current form. And he then went on, as I'm sure you'll remember, and broached the topic of a partnership, which sent many of our trustees sitting in the room into orbit. But you know what? He was so right. The rest is history, because you and George and John Fry ultimately conceptualized, proposed, and delivered a partnership which nobody could have imagined and which really shaped the future of the Academy. One last thing, Jim Macaleer, and this is on a personal note. I need to thank you. I need to thank you for being my mentor all these years. We've met at the Marriott in Conshohocken, and you has been a great source of information to me. Integrity, not always, Jim, because you didn't tell me that the board chair role is a full-time, non-paying, and very expensive job. That you neglected to tell me when you recruited me into this position. And you then did allow that your good wife, Jean, used to live in fear when I would call you, because she was worried I was going to resign because you misrepresented the role, and she was worried further that I was going to recruit you back into the position. I did think of resigning a couple of times, I have to confess. So, Jim and Jean, we thank you. I thank you over and over and over again for all of the support you've given the Academy, given in the broadest sense of the word. And let me conclude by saying that the William McClure Award is only a small reflection of our appreciation. Thank you. We love you.